They said she wouldn't survive it. They said the situation was hopeless. They said she needed to prepare for the worst. But what they didn't know was that this woman had a secret place and a secret weapon. When life pushed her down, she didn't stay down. She fell to her knees, and that became the place of her victory. Her name was Miriam, a simple woman who loved God with all her heart. She wasn't rich, she wasn't powerful, and she had no one to lean on but God. She lived in a small apartment with her 10-year-old son, Caleb, a bright, cheerful boy who loved singing hymns every morning before school. Miriam had lost her husband years ago in a tragic car accident, and since then, life had been a daily battle. But through it all, she never stopped believing that God was faithful. Caleb was the joy of her heart, her reason to smile again after years of tears. Every night before they slept, they prayed together. Caleb would always end with his favorite line, "Mom, Jesus will never leave us, right?" And Miriam would smile and say, "Never, my son. He's closer than the air we breathe." But one day, that faith would be tested in a way she never imagined. It was a Wednesday morning. Miriam had just finished preparing Caleb's lunch when the phone rang. She picked up with her usual calm tone, but what she heard on the other side made her knees weaken. "Madam, please come to the school immediately. Your son just collapsed during assembly." She dropped everything and ran. Her heart raced faster than her feet. By the time she reached the school, Caleb was already unconscious, surrounded by teachers and students. His body was still, his lips pale. He wasn't breathing properly. Miriam screamed his name, shaking him gently, but there was no response. An ambulance rushed him to the hospital. The drive felt endless. She held his small hand and whispered, "Jesus, please. Please don't take my baby." When they arrived, the doctors rushed him into the emergency room. Minutes turned into hours. Then one of the doctors came out, holding a file with that heavy look that always brings bad news. He said softly, "Madam, we've done some tests. Your son has a severe brain infection. It's spreading quickly. We'll do everything we can, but you need to prepare for the worst." Miriam froze. She couldn't breathe. It felt as though the world had stopped spinning. She wanted to scream, but no words came out. All she could do was whisper, "No, not my son. Not Caleb." That night, as the machines beeped around her child's lifeless body, Miriam walked out of the hospital room and found a quiet corner in the chapel. It was empty. Just her, the flickering candlelight, and the sound of her own sobs. She fell to her knees, her hands trembling, her voice cracking as she cried, "God, you gave me this child. You said you would never leave me. Why now? Why this?" But even as she wept, a still, gentle voice whispered deep in her spirit, "Fight for him. Don't give up." And that night, a new kind of battle began, not with weapons, not with people, but with prayer. Miriam stopped sleeping. For 3 days, she fasted and prayed. The nurses began to pity her, thinking she had lost her mind. But what they didn't know was that Miriam was waging war. Every night, she laid her hands on Caleb's chest and prayed scriptures over him. She whispered, "You shall not die, Caleb, but live to declare the works of the Lord." She declared, "By his stripes you are healed." She cried, "Lord, breathe your life into him again." Every hour she prayed, every minute she believed, every second she hoped. And each time she felt fear rising, she fell on her knees again. On the third night, something happened. As she prayed, the atmosphere in the room shifted. It was as if someone else had entered. The air grew warm. Peace filled her heart. Her tears stopped. She couldn't explain it, but she felt God's presence so strongly it silenced her fear. She heard in her spirit, "The battle is not yours, but mine." From that moment, Miriam stopped begging God and started worshiping him. She began to sing softly over Caleb's bed songs of victory, not defeat. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper. Her voice cracked, but her faith grew stronger with each word. One nurse who had been watching whispered, She's different. It's like she's already sure he'll live. And she was. By the fifth day, the doctors noticed something unusual. Caleb's brain activity had started increasing. It made no medical sense. The infection had begun to reverse. By the seventh day, Caleb's fingers twitched. By the eighth day, he opened his eyes. The doctor almost dropped his clipboard. He stared at the monitors, speechless. "This is impossible," he muttered. But Miriam smiled through tears. "Nothing is impossible with God," she whispered. Caleb slowly began to recover, talking, walking, and even singing again. Within 2 weeks, he was discharged completely healed, with no trace of infection in his body. The same doctors who told her to prepare for death now stood in awe of the power of prayer. Months later, Miriam returned to that hospital, but not as a patient. She went back carrying her healthy, smiling son by the hand. The nurses rushed to see them, amazed at the miracle standing before their eyes. Miriam looked at the doctor and said, "You did your best, but God did the rest. When science said no, heaven said yes." That day, even the doctor's eyes filled with tears. He said, "Madam, I don't know what to say. This is beyond medicine." Miriam smiled gently. "It's not beyond God," she replied. She looked around at the other mothers sitting in the waiting room, women crying, hopeless, afraid. She said to them, "Don't stop praying. Don't give up. Your knees are stronger than any weapon. When life pushes you down, kneel and heaven will stand for you." And that's how Miriam fought her greatest battle, not with her hands, not with her words, but with her knees bent before God. She learned that tears may fall, but they can water the seeds of miracles when mixed with faith. She learned that sometimes God allows the storm not to destroy us, but to reveal his power in us. Caleb grew up to become a pastor, sharing his story all over the world, how his mother's prayers became his second heartbeat. And whenever someone asked Miriam how she survived such a storm, she would smile and say, "I fought on my knees. And heaven fought for me." When you can't stand anymore, kneel. When your strength runs out, remember your knees are still strong enough to move heaven. Because the greatest victories are not won with noise or might, but in quiet surrender before the Almighty. They said it was over, but she knelt down and heaven stood up.